I started off sweeping the floor and worked for a genius called Les Bowie, and then made my way out working for people like Jerry Anderson and doing Thunderbirds and stuff like that. Stingray, because I was interested in flying, I used to hang on this with this cross T thing and wires hanging down and do the actual movements of the T2 and all the other things.
Leaning out over the piece of scaffolding?
It was actually a plank, a scaffold plank, on a tower, leaning out over the set with a rope tied to the ceiling, a big rope that I could hold on to, and then I'd lean right out because I was younger then and fit. The temperature was about 130, 140 degrees up in the roof, there's no ventilation. And then I'd swing this thing round in an arc and line it up and sort of land it and do stuff. On Thunderbirds I wasn't being paid very much money, and I asked for more money, and I wasn't getting any more money, so I thought, well, I'm going to go. And I gave them a month's notice. And Les Bowie said, give Stanley Kubrick a ring. He had some wire work he wanted doing, and he'd watched Thunderbirds, obviously, and decided that maybe I could be the person. And so I went along to MGM. You know the sequence with all the razzle dazzle in it, and there's a sequence where you're flying over land, and the land they've flashed all the different colours in. Well, they were high-con masters, separations of those different colour values, and then different colours were put back in, so that's what changed all the colours. 1 million feet of 65mm film. Big glass sheet about 7-8 feet in diameter on rollers, so it could be rotated, and then the pen was stuck on with double-sided tape, and then the girl came and the camera's on sort of one position, and the girl comes down, and if you see her, she doesn't put her fingers around the back of the pen, she just goes like that and gets hold of the pen, and because it's just held on with the double-sided tape and it's rotated, she just gets hold of it and moves it away. The set and the camera were locked together, the part of the set that rotated, so that the camera and the set rotated, and she is with it, and then it looks like the other bit of the set is rotating round, as it were. So lots of very clever and lots of huge surface silver mirrors made out of mylar, which were originally made for VC10 washer. I worked on it 3¼ years. Doug Trumbull worked on it for 4, I think. Yeah. Kirk Kerkorian bought MGM because it absolutely got bankrupted by 2001, and then he turned the most beautiful European studio into a bomb site. I worked with Blake on Tamarind Seed.
Oh, right.
In Barbados, and then I was in Pinewood Studios one day, and he was having lunch, and he said, would I be interested in doing a picture with him? And I said, yeah, I'd love to, because he's great to work with. He said it's called Revenge of the Panther. Pumping up the parity burden thing, where we had this, I had to have a vacuum pump and a pressure thing, so we could make it go either way, and either pump it up or suck the air out of it or whatever. What we didn't realise was we had Peter Sellers, and the parrot had just one feather on its head, and it was rubber. Peter Sellers, as soon as he saw this thing coming in the corner of his eye, the feather coming forward and this noise of it sort of making some funny noise, he got the fits. And it took us 4 days to shoot that sequence. He and Blake used to roll on the floor, clutching their stomachs in absolute agony, or they were not talking to each other. When we were in Nice, and the silver hornet was under the trees, and it's all romantic at the end, and he goes to show the hornet off to the girl, and it collapses. If you watch that, you'll actually see, as the bonnet falls off, we had these high tension springs under the bonnet to chiffon it. One of the springs shot up in the air and hit a pigeon in the tree that was asleep up in the tree, and the pigeon comes fluttering down through the frame. I looked at it and it was a brilliant script. I mean, you read it and you put it down and you thought, God, this is going to be a fantastic movie. When the alien came in, we had Balaji, the great big tall, from somewhere in Africa, a very tall, thin guy, and he fitted him in the suit, and then he was so worn out wearing it that he used to pass out, because you can only wear it for so long. The heat inside that thing when it was on the set, the initial effect with coming through the actual T-shirt, we'd covered the T-shirt with acid and stuff to weaken it, and it didn't come through, so the blood sort of pumped up and then went back down again. He quite liked that. But then when we actually did cut it with razors and stuff like that for another take, one of the actresses got a face full of the jet from the blood pump. And she went back to the back of the set and threw up. I was working for 20th Century Fox on Alien, but I'd also agreed to work with 2 gentlemen that turned up at Brain when I was doing Space 1999 TV series. And they came in and they had a look around and said, would I be interested in doing a science fiction movie? And I said I'd love to, and I just signed, the day before, I just signed for a second series of Space 1999 with Jerry. And they said, oh, it's a thing, you won't have heard of it, it's a thing called Star Wars. When the film was being made at Elstree, I used to hear from technicians saying, oh, it's just the biggest pile of rubbish you've ever seen. You're like, oh, it's awful, it's awful. The same guys went to crew screening. Yeah, I knew it was going to be a success. The original R2 weighed, I think, 84 pounds or something. And so I got a load of people together, and we made I had made a series of R2s that were made out of epoxy. So it was really light, vacuum molded epoxy stuff, and it made the R2D2 radio controlled with batteries on board weigh 32 pounds, I think. So it went around like a rocket. In the original show, you could see the wire pulling the thing along the corridor because it didn't work, but